But we can now start, hopefully. People have stopped moving. And may I present you the panel. First, Hegle Sarapuu from Trinidad. David Lamas from Tallinn University. And then Risto Hinno and Andres Rubar from Ministry of Economy and Communications. And Kai Kotka and Jana Kauts from City of Tallinn. And we have, interestingly, like there is said that there is axis of evil. Currently we have axis of usability here. So we have the academia and business. We have the state and the municipality, which somehow tend always to be on a different side. And we have theory and practice. We have all different kinds of roles. For example, Janno is actually on the implementation side, managing the web. Kai is having on her side analyst, meaning that she's also a portfolio handler of the services of Tallinn. Andrus is actually from the Department of Registries, so he's partly client, partly managing the service that needs to get more useful. Risto is of the providing the e-services part, and perhaps Hegle and David don't need any more introduction. And we will be starting this actually because it is based on some work that has been done by Trinidad for Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications to measure usability. And Hegle will start with a short presentation about that, and then we'll be going to try to dissect the subject into various sides and have a saying from our panel and invite your feedback from audience side as well. So, and I'll pass you one of the available microphones. If anybody wants to interrupt her, there is another microphone, and we have also here a microphone for audience. So if anybody wants to interact, then raise your hand, and I hope one of the volunteers will help the microphone to you and notify that we need to take you in. So, Hegle.
Okay. Can I have slides, please? Oh, yeah, excellent. So, well, the problem is that if you start ordering user interface, it's really hard to explain what you mean by it has to be usable, you know, because usability is kind of a different thing for different people, and it depends what they have to do in the system. So basically, at some case, you need to have really easy to use system because you don't have much time to learn it, or you don't want to. And the other cases you are a bit willing to learn, but you actually think that you should be able to work really fast with the system. So those requirements are different, and both of those are understood as a usability. So good luck with explaining the usability by a gut feeling. It is also like we are not creating 100% of the usability. Never. It's impossible to do because there will be always someone who finds it hard to use. So there's no point of fighting for it as well. But how much is good enough? You know, usually good enough is explained with the budget. So we only have 5,000 euros for improving usability, and that's it. But it's not explained like how usable it is, or what should be more important in user interface or things like that. So this is our job to find out. But how do business people actually order the usability then? Yeah, and usability is not binary value. It cannot be so that it's there or it's not there. Some kind of usability is always there. That might be just bad usability, but it's there. In this case, it is really hard to order user interface which I think is usable. And the rest of my company or institution is also thinking that this is our usability. So the solution is we have to measure something predefined. So we have to predefine usability, but it's kind of like a bit hard because usability is different in different cases. And we need to understand what is more important, what is general or common over the system, and what is not. So we have to get some kind of agreement or discussion going on. If we improve something, so we're improving usability or user interface daily, every day. Most of you, anyone who has ordered anything or visualized anything is improving something, right? So is it really improving, or you just created a user interface you liked more? Is it like really actually working better? So, we have to watch trends. When we change something, we have to understand, is it getting better? And, if I have different kind of systems, how can I compare? How can I say that one system is better in usability than the other? Today, we're just asking from the people, what do you think about that? Or we do some user testing. But, if we do for every system, which is, for example, let's say in Tallinn government, they use a lot of systems, right? So if we do user testing like every month for every system, it's kind of really, really huge work to do, right? Should we do that? Or should we do it twice per year? How about that? So we should have some kind of relatively cheap way to understand, is it getting better or not? We did a qualitative study, so interviews, to understand what is the typical usability issue. Are they common issues or they are completely different issues? And what is usability for different user groups? I mean, how they understand the usability? So we asked them to describe what they think is good to use. How they behave when they see something really good in point of usability, and how they behave if something is not working for them as they expected. So for that, we did this qualitative study. We found out that actually the typical usability issues are kind of similar. If you get validation error, then it's validation error, and it's common usability problem for all the systems, right? So this is kind of fact which comes out when user is using bad formulated form. So we created some key performance indicators or usability indicators based on those situations. And it came out that most of them are actually possible to apply to many other systems. Maybe not all of them, but a lot. We assumed that usability is 100% if we are not, show the facts that it's not. So maybe it's good place to start from. It's 100% when we don't see any usability errors. So this is our main big goal. And of course, if we found some facts and we can say that, yeah, well, this is a usability error in this system, then we take something from this 100% away. Of course, we cannot take away like, more than 100%, but I mean, this is close enough. If you have needed to take away a lot already, that cannot show that it's kind of still good usability, right? So this model is kind of layered. It's basically the first biggest part is different measurable situations of bad usability. So what happened, for example, if you got this validation error, then this is one situation, and if you had to call to help desk, for example, this is another situation, and so on. So we basically picked 24 of them. This is quite a lot. We wanted to have more. There was a chance to have more, but the thing is, nobody is going to be able to measure everything in normal time frame. It takes time. Then we created KPIs. So basically, there's some equations which actually are basing a lot on conversion equation. So as you're calculating conversion, we can use the same equation for calculating, for example, how big of the percentage of the user are getting actually usability errors, and so on. So we had like 16 usability indicators and also one performance indicator, so we can actually see if usability is bad, and performance indicator shows that the system doesn't really help us, then it's pretty clear what we have to do, right? We have to improve at least the usability. And from those KPIs, well, one KPI is more about easy to learn, and some KPIs were more about fast to use or being efficient, and some others. And we gathered those 16 usability KPIs as different groups of indicators or elements, usability elements, if we like to. And from all of those, they all had same weight. So we took average and we got like usability indicator. It's as a percentage. So that was the model we actually built based on this qualitative research with Risto and others. Yeah. So we also created an Excel table about those indicators. So those are in Excel table like all you had to measure. It's very small. It's actually not meant to read that long, but if you want to, I can, send you this Excel table and the document which comes with that, and it's also like on the MKM website, so you can download it for free. So those were all the indicators we had to measure. From those, we got those KPIs. And this negative and positive part was about what was the maximum. So if you have 100%, is this like good thing or a bad thing? Most of the indicators are bad by the nature, because we're taking away bad facts. So if we see facts about bad usability, we take that part away. So therefore they're negative. It's easier to measure mistakes than measure, the success or happiness or things like that. And more how we did calculations, and there were like these usability indicators up there. I mean, these elements, easy to learn, how good it is or how fast it is to use, how many times we can avoid mistakes, and so on. And of course, this middle layer was all the rules we had, like different user types. So how good the usability is for different types of the users. And the last part was about the features of the system. So basically we use the same data to just see these different aspects. And of course, in Excel you can do all these pretty graphs, right? So that was the best part. Yeah, this example data is kind of example. Some part of it is real life data, but some part is just changed, so a graph would look better for you. Yeah, you're sleeping? So, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry I took so long.
Very good. So, the part to comment on the model. Okay, we have the first candidate. If anybody from audience wants to add, then raise your hand and the microphone will be taken to you.
It's just a quick question. You mentioned before that it would be good to measure often. So my question is this: does this model actually allow you to measure often? If it does, then how often can you measure in the typical system that you are now targeting?
Well, you can measure very often if it comes automatically, right? So basically, as all this data is background data of user activity, then actually you can measure it all automatically, but you just have to develop a bit or have these numbers taken automatically into same model, right? Mm-hmm. So basically, with some clever programmers, you actually could do it and measure like really fast. It depends on system. So if the system is really old, then it might be trickier, of course.
Anybody wants to comment from the side? Do we have there? From my own side is that the main question is how much work would it actually do by doing it manually? Is it when you prepared the thing, you actually made a table for the first time, you got there some data. Did you feel it's easy to get it running and get the results, or you were thinking that I probably need to guess this number and I could tweak the result a bit, or how it's?
With some things, it's harder than the others, of course. If Google Analytics is with the system, then you get pretty much like, I think, around like 60-70% of the data already. Mm-hmm. So, it's probably just still manual work to look the data from the Google Analytics or create dashboard or something like that for that. Mm-hmm.
I looked at one of the numbers on the table, and there was something like top 1 menu clicks, and I found that in I think 95% of the analytics setups, I know that people have navigated to the sub pages, but actually clicking in the menu is pretty often not tracked as event. So there was actually a couple of things which most of us really don't track, and perhaps we should. So how do you see it actually getting the data?
Well, as this problem getting the data is because we made it this model after we had created the system. We should have started it in a different way, because if we have planned it before, we might have this data already. So that really means that my colleague has to take some time, find some money, and to develop the system and develop the processes to get the data. Because we just created the model, but we didn't combine it with creation of this database and this information system.
Then the next question would be, okay, you're telling us that a system already existed, and then you created the model, and then basically manually you collected the data, although there are mechanisms, but you still had to collect the data and feed it into the calculator, the spreadsheet, to get the indicators, right? This is what you did, and this is for one time, right? So currently, the tool that you have doesn't really allow this higher frequency sampling of usability measures, right? It does not. So how do one of you, I don't know who could be the person responding to it, how do you see this evolving into something that can be easily embedded in systems that you would like to monitor? Because if this is going to be the case for the future, that people need to deal with the data collection, maybe cleaning as well, because there's lots of noise in data, and then feeding it into the system. It's always the same problem, right? Garbage in, garbage out. If you feed something bad into the model, then indicator is going to be crappy as well. So how, on one hand, how do you see it evolving? Do you have in your agenda, in your plans, developing some library that people can just import, reuse, and make their own systems auditable by this model? Or would you leave it freely open to people to decide on how to implement the model? And then you actually might need to audit the implementation of the model to be sure that it's actually generating the data that it's supposed to generate, right? Because okay, so how do you see it going past the life of the Excel spreadsheet?
Well, basically how we see it is that we make this thing public, as it is already. Everybody can use it. And we're really making it, how to say, mandatory to start thinking about and measuring usability. And as I am in a central unit who is responsible for those services that we have in public sector, then we say that, okay, you want to measure usability, we say you have to do it, then this is one of the tools, you can use it. And if you want to use it, please contact us, and then we'll look on. So basically we are looking for somebody who wants to use it already. So we already have found one of our colleagues, and basically we're trying to be very practical, so one step at a time, because we don't want to make it mandatory to everybody in the first phase, because maybe there are some problems. Maybe we have to remake the model or count in some different things, some options that we don't have at the moment. So this is a plan we have at the moment.
Mm-hmm. There's actually also a question from the audience side asking that is there a scale of the usability, of measuring usability, and if there is a scale, is there also a unit on the scale? So we are currently speaking about something having 45% usability, so of
What does it mean, right?
Yeah. What is it good or bad? I don't know. 45, I don't know. For me, it sounds bad, but I know that sometimes the numbers like 30% are very good, and if your website has 10% conversion rate, 10% is small, but most of people would be pretty happy with that.
Absolutely, it depends on the system, it depends what you do with the system. So basically sometimes having 5% is good enough because it already helps you a lot. So it's relative. And if you're tracking the trends, how the usability is going, like if you change something, it's getting better, or you change something else, it's getting worse. So that starts to matter you. So this sets normal for you. So I'm not saying that we have to have visibility of 95% for all the information system. It's kind of it's not reasonable to spend all that money for there. In many cases, it's not. In some cases, it's okay, and you have to do that.
Raimo is asking, can you get universal system for comparing the usability of different services? So, anybody want to comment on that? Can you get a universal system for comparing the usability of different services? Can we kind of compare the question of 45% here and 45% there? Anders? Yeah.
Well, I would just say no, we can't. Yeah. No.
That was easy question.
It's totally not possible because there's one thing that I will mention on the dark side.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe we can put
soon.
it on the dark side.
So yeah, it's kind of there, and I will talk about it. Yes.
Yeah.
I was actually trying to use the laptop on the table to show something, but the internet connection there is not working, so
Can
I'll
you
try to
put
put it here.
presentation on, please?
jah, paneks selle esitluse uuesti peale ja järgmine see esimene tume slaid sealt edasi. Could we switch to the presentation? Yes, and the one which was, no, yeah, this one, and okay, next. Yeah. So the dark side, there is the lightly dressed and darkly dressed part. Okay. You know
okay, I wanted just to re-ask what do you suggest how often public institution should make this qualitative service about their information systems? Twice a year, once a year?
It actually depends what you are going to decide on based on that. So basically, if you are going to change the system, then you should, measure it really often to see is it getting better or not, right? So, but if you are not going to improve it anyway, then it might not have such a big point of measuring it, right? But of course, if you want to show your managers that we should invest there or we should put some money there and something will get better, then we definitely should measure, right? Because numbers is speaking. They are speaking. I mean, like, is it good or bad or,
Okay.
There is also from Garth the question that perhaps we could try gamifying the usability instead, give points to the systems with better usability. And we could actually, especially before the election time coming, when each of the ministers is very interested in getting their votes, then perhaps, yeah, that might be good to put up the scoreboard, because I think the gamifying needs the score and the scoreboard where you can compare them. So, yeah, something. And there's also a question, could you share measured usability % of some of the public or well-known site? I think the answer is that we don't yet have any full run of the system, and this is also part of the thing why it has been made public and is discussed here. And we have, when it started with the Ministry of Economy, we also invited in the City of Tallinn people, because the difference between the state and municipality is that 80% of the services are in the municipality. And when we were discussing with Janna and Kai about implementing in Tallinn, Tallinn has 580 public services on the website. So now go and try implementing the table for each of that. It probably takes a couple of full-time jobs per city government, so something like that. But you are ready.
I would ask, can we have the image from the laptop down here on the screen, if it's showing something? Mm-hmm. Yes, okay. So I think this is what the question before was about. Can we compare usability measures across systems? And this is something that will only be achieved when this tool is applied a number of times and compared with perceived usability. Only then we will be able to establish this. So this is the interpretation of the percentages from using the SUS scale that most of you know, right? This system usability satisfaction that dates from the 80s. It's really, really old tool. Very simple perceived usability kind of thing. The thing is that, you see, you got the percentages from 0 to 100, and then you need to understand these percentages. You need to be able to interpret this. It's not like 50 is average and over 50 is good and below 50 is bad. It is like so. Like if it's here, then it's acceptable. Yes, if it's here, it's the best imaginable, then it's excellent, then it's good, and this is okay, poor, and worst imaginable. And this is not here randomly. I mean, it's not like Hegler or Risto will stand up and say, this is where I put the mark. It's that they will need to work on the numbers and actually contrast this with perceived usability to be able to say that when we get this kind of number, our audience is telling us this or this or this. And then this evolves over time. The more and more the tool is applied, the more and more the scale matures, and it can actually reflect an usability understanding of the system. It's not just the number. So getting the number per se, in my opinion, will not help. And you are quite aware of that, so I know that. So I'm just picking up this one because this is a very old one, right? And of course, as this is a very old one and it has been applied thousands of times, then we can actually use this to interpret the numbers. This one is a very new one, and it needs to be improved. It needs to be improved and refreshed over time. And if we can go back to the dark side now, then I will ask my intriguing questions. Yes, okay, so I will stand up and then I'll sit for the discussion. Okay, so I'm quite critical of metrics in this field and others, especially when we might be induced in thinking that by adopting a tool we actually get something out of it, and this is kind of only truth. The thing is that what we measure, it's what we get done, right? So if these guys will tell you that there will be like 24 things for you to look at, then these are going to be the items that people will be paying attention to, and most of the other things will be discarded as non-relevant. And then after some time, people will be very, very good at measuring these 24 items, and these 24 items will write really, really high, but the system will probably be as unusable as it was before, just because you're just working for the numbers and to meet these 24 criteria. So this is one true pitfall that should be accountable, right? Accounted for. So what we measure, it's actually what we work for. In another way, people work for what you pay them to do, and that's it, right? If you want to see these numbers, that's what people will do. And this might drive at the same time good and bad behavior. I've got two examples from literature, but not scientific examples, just examples, well documented. So one is about these Continental Airlines trying to cut down on costs. And so there was a directive to the pilots that they should use the least amount of possible combustible to get from A to B. And what they started to do to get, because they were getting bonuses by meeting this requirement. So they started to fly slightly slower, which on an airplane is not noticeable, but it kind of, instead of being on time all the time or even before time, they started to get 10, 15 minutes late. And the planes were running warmer or hotter in some cases, because the air conditioning was not being used so much, because it also uses more power. So in the end of the day, the management was quite happy with the reports, because pilots were using less fuel, but they lost valuable customers that went for the competition because the service that they were rendering was worse. So that's what I meant by, if you just use one tool and you don't keep your eye open to something else, people might actually try to meet your objectives, but by doing so, they might disregard other things that are also very important, right? The problem of a tool is that it kind of narrows down your perspective into one specific direction. So this is one possible pitfall. The other possible pitfall is that people will start, oh, this one, not my computer, is that people might start lying, not because they are bad people, but because they want to please the people that actually read the reports. And in this one specific case, there was again a metric. Somebody was measuring the performance of the support team, and there was a standard to be met that all trouble tickets in an IT company should be addressed within a specific time frame. What the help desk started to do is they were closing and reopening the tickets so that the tickets would never be older than the specific time frame. Management was quite happy, right? Customers were still unhappy, and the metric was totally ineffective. In this case, the fact that the metric was being kind of pushed onto the team led to lies. In the other case, it led to change in behavior. In this case, it actually led to lies. People were lying just by changing the dates. So the reports were okay. Management was really, really happy. Customers were equally unhappy. So metrics, they can be very interesting, but they can also have these very, very naughty effects. That's why I'm calling my intervention the dark side. Okay. So another thing is that metrics, they don't get better with age. Right? It's not like you develop something and then you just use it. You need to develop, and then you need to mature this. And you do it by constantly reworking the metric. It's like this system usability scale that I showed you before. This thing is valid today. If you go and look for the interpretation data for 10 years ago, it was different. If you look at it in 10 years, it's going to be different. Just because perceptions change over time, systems change over time, and then the way you interpret these numbers, they also change over time. Just think about what you call now a tall person or a short person, right? Or even in different regions of the world, right? I can be, depending on where I am in the planet, I can be tall, short, or average. Right? It really depends on where I am. And even in Estonia, you can be tall today and short in 10 or 20 years, right? Just because the next population will be taller, right? And so the interpretation of numbers needs to change over time, and it means that metrics don't just stay. They can just stay there, and they should be cared for. And again, as I was mentioning before, when you asked this question about can we compare numbers between systems, I said no, definitely not, because metrics should be aligned with crucial user journeys. And I'm not sure that the metrics that were developed right now in this model, I'm not sure if they actually take this into consideration. Are we measuring what really matters? Are all the parameters, the 24 inputs, equally valuable? Is one input more valuable than other, depending on the circumstances, depending on the scenario, right? And maybe this should be also accounted for, right? Because if you value equally everything and systems are different, then it might be that in the end, again, we are measuring the wrong stuff, right? We're measuring things that are not so relevant in that specific context. So this is me being dark. So I don't want to just point potential problems. I want to highlight possible ways to circumvent them. And so how can we go about it? And I've got three questions. Three possible ways, but there are more. Triangulation, monitoring, and feedback. Triangulation was mentioned already before lunch when we were talking about these different ways of assessing usability. Triangulation was mentioned before with a different word, just basically telling you that you should use different methods to assess the same object. Right? If you are assessing a system, just one is not enough. You need to use more than one. In this case, it would mean that they can use the model in a systematic way. From time to time, they should bring in users to compare the results from the model with results from users. And from time to time, they should do online assessment with things like Loop 11, for instance, and then compare with those, right? Because if you triangulate, then you can validate the numbers. You just don't take the number, you take different, you use different sensors to get this indication, right? It's like putting different velocity sensors on a car, and then you can be sure that the car is actually running 60, not 65 or 55, because you have different sensors, and they should more or less give you the same reading on speed, okay? That's what they do on airplanes, for instance, right? Monitoring. Monitoring is like looking at the data and then acting upon it, right? You monitor the evolution of the data. That's the monitoring, not just getting the data, but actually monitoring it, being aware of the evolution of the trends in data that is being collected. And then feedback. Feedback means that you measure, you monitor, and then you feed back the interpretation of these results into the model itself. So it helps mature the model. Right? And I know that this is already in, right? This has been already incorporated. I'm not sure about the triangulation and monitoring, if you thought carefully about how to do it, but I know that the principle of feedback is there, right? So this is the dark side, like the possible pitfalls of blindly adopting this or any other model to measure usability.
Yes, so the Mr. from the dark side. Before we move on with the comments, I wanted to address one question. Dina is asking what system is talked about here will be coming closer to the actual system also, but to help you think about that, this currently, the basis of this project was MTR, majandustegevuse register, registry of economic activity, or whatever, however you call it. Some companies have to register there, and there is some kind of procedures if you don't register but are behaving on the field and so on. So this is a question. And actually Dina had another part of the question: how can you make thinking about usability mandatory? So this is I think the main part in looking at the light side after the dark side is that too often the thinking is about planning the system and not about actually being able to adjust it and do it afterwards. Even when I've been working in advertising, I know that customers, when I'm telling that, okay, let's put it running and then test and see and adjust it, they look at that, come on, why are you taking then money for your advice if you don't know? And this is the attitude question. We need to work hard to get over the attitude that there is the absolute truth that the guy is telling you on the Monday morning in the church. But comments on the dark side. Can we pass around the microphone? Are there feelings, especially from the side who did that part? Are there any comments from the audience side? I see we got several approvals on the question of getting the matrix to this side. Comments? No?
So with the Excel table I showed before, but that is also one document. In this document, there is a feedback mechanism. So basically, you could send all the information to Risto, and over time, the model will be improved. The other side is it does have quite long chapter about different ways of measuring and alternatives. So you don't have to just using this model, or you don't have to, use it at all. You can have something different. It really depends on you, on your system, and what is with what you are used to, basically, what you can have. It doesn't have to be a big, huge project to start measuring.
Okay, maybe we'll move on to Anders.
Just add a little bit that from my point, I think the most essential or crucial idea was that you don't need all those 24 metrics. You have your goal, and usually 1-2 indicators are suitable to describe the situation and the progress. So we can't speak so universal usability, but we are talking about you have a certain goal what you want to reach, and you measuring the progress of that goal with 1-2 metrics.
I have a rhetorical question to Ministry of Economic and Communication people. But maybe we should have some extra institutional body, for example, in your office, who evaluates usability of all Estonian public information systems. So you can always use the same methodology. Data is always analogical and so on.
Well, I think it's not very reasonable to have this kind of body, because measuring usability is not just measuring and getting the numbers, but understanding the client. And if you're a service owner, then you are the one who should know your clients. If you build some central body who is managing these usability metrics, then they are not going to know your service, your clients, and that might be an issue. But I agree on that we should have some kind of overview what is going on in public sector with services. Are they good, are they bad?
Okay, but maybe you...
Maybe you at least consider his idea. But actually, I think Janno's point is pretty valid, because I know that even when we are looking on the side of the business sector, the number of people dealing with analytics and information, data validation, adjustment of all the systems, and making sure that your system gathers the data. If we make that each of the government parts and each of the municipalities is going to make a tender for their usability metrics specialist, then I think it won't end good, because there will be a question that we need to have like the industry of auditors who is coming in and audit. So perhaps having a chief usability czar somewhere who is actually taking care and who does have the ways to how to get things implemented. Maybe that's a good idea. But any other comments from audience side? I don't see massive sea of hands and wishes for microphone. Maybe we'll move on with your slides then. Can we have the slides back? And a bit from the side of the motivation.
So, as I was the other side of this project, I was taking this model, and the basic question that we are facing is how do we motivate people in public sector to use this kind of model, or even start to think about measuring usability. As I've worked quite a few years in public sector, I already know what doesn't motivate, so it's the easy part. There's always some excuses. First of all, they're going to say it's going to be expensive. We have to maybe outsource some specialist when we are building a new system and we have some new requirements. It's going to be more expensive for us. We have to have more money. The second one is nobody is going to say it out loud, but usually what happens if the numbers are bad and they will be public? I don't want to be a bad guy, so better not to measure, then we don't have any problem if we don't have any numbers. And third one, what is very, very common in public sector is, why should I care? What happens to the client? Is he going to some different authority? No, he can't. We don't have any competition here. So he'll suffer, but he'll come back. Nothing will happen. But on the bright side, what might motivate? Well, first one is not so bright. I would say train is coming. At the moment, we're building systems, and a lot of this money we're investing is coming from EU. And about in 6-7 years, we don't have so much money anymore. And that means we have to save a lot of money to invest in future on the same level as we do at the moment. And my hypothesis is that if you don't think about clients, then we are going to waste a lot of money. Because if you don't think about client, then you got to be really rich. And as much as I have had data in public sector, I could say that a good service is 3 or 4 times cheaper than a bad service. Because usually you don't measure the investment only, but you measure the related cost, the hidden cost. They're coming to your service bureaus, they are calling you, sending emails because they can't use your fancy system. And people are usually forgetting that. And this is why I also like this model, because it includes those kind of metrics too. And so I would like to say that usability is cost saving if you really think about it. And you don't have to have some really fancy metrics and fancy systems to measure it, but you could start thinking about it. And the third thing that might motivate is that in few years we are moving on a project where we try to list all the public services that we have in Estonia. And it's not just going to be a list, but it's going to be a list with some very basic metrics. What is satisfaction, client satisfaction? What is the cost of the service? How much time does a client spend using your service? So when everybody would say that I don't want to show my bad numbers, well, it's going to be mandatory in a few years. So start thinking about now, and you're going to have a good numbers when it's going to be mandatory to show them out. So I would like, yeah, it's going to get to the dark side, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, especially when you are thinking about cost saving, one of my favorite examples for everything related to public services is ehitusregister, building registry. And at some moment I was on the client side interacting with that and didn't understand why the people in Tallinn city are taking so long with all of the processes. And when we finally met around the table and discussed, it turned out that they all were very nice people. They were very much willing to help me, but the system was antiquated. And its usability was actually so bad that while it was technically and legally possible for a private company to also prepare their own building permits documents, one of the largest project bureaus in Estonia, who is doing a lot of public side projects, I think it's a car project, had actually went through the bureaucracy to get the right to enter the documents there, to get their things processed quicker. And I think they quit the thing in 1 or 2 months because they found that they can't pay for that much of manual working time to use the computer system. So what they did when they stopped using that, everything reverted back into the municipality. So we are all paying through taxpayers for really bad usability. And while there was some discussion in the back channel about if something is ugly and still selling, this isn't the question of ugliness or prettiness. I don't care if it's ugly, but I just want to have the simple thing. I want to save the form and open it again at later time and edit it. So very basic usability things that often are somehow overlooked, and this is actually the cost-saving part. If this can be realized, and if this tool can help bring up the same people who in Tallinn city told me that no, the problem is just the tool. The tool is completely unusable. Then putting the same numbers and demonstrating, because when you are going to somebody to tell you need to change that, you need to have some proof. Why it's bad? I don't know. I like it. It's nice yellow. So it's exactly, I think the number has its use. But any comments on the motivation part? How do you see the motivation part in Tallinn? Because I know you having the large number of services. Do you inside feel motivated to provide them and make them better? And yeah.
Yes, that's a good question. Because we have a lot of services and a lot of system always, and that complex of measuring is for systems. That means we have 60 info system for e-services, and today we measure usage. How many clients use e-channel and how many prefer to go to the office, because to come to the office is still open. And I wonder where is coming the cost saving if I understood we are going to measure the system, so we need to rebuild the systems. Did I understood it?
Yes, I think the end result will be rebuilding the systems. Yes, unfortunately. And it could bring we do hope if we bring them according to these metrics, it might bring the cost savings, unless we are just rebuilding the systems.
Yeah. But anyway, I am not against it, because it is of course possible. Today we measure the usage of service cards. What parts of service cards the clients are opening? What is the most interesting part? And we have such a kind back office and statistic about the usage of service cards.
I would like to add something that is not directly related with it is related with the topic of the panel, but not directly related with what we're discussing right now. I'm looking at some faces and seeing some frowning. I'm looking at some faces and seeing some yawning. And well, I'm concerned. I'm concerned because this, I know, if we think about the two previous talks, and if we think about that jumpy thing that sometimes we do, all happy and smiling, and this is what you want to see, well, the topic can seem kind of boring. The thing is that it's not boring. It's not boring. It's actually quite relevant. And this is exactly what we all as a community must do if we actually want to design and develop better products or services. If you don't take into consideration the stakeholders, it won't move. So it's not about the flashy thing. It's not about the facelifting. It's not about the lipstick and the colors. It's about making things happen in a good way. And this is up to you to make too. So it's not about let's create a nicer looking web page and then we feel good about it because it looks like a beautiful painting. The thing is that at the end of the day, and this is what's on the table right now, the system might be as crappy or even crappier than it was before. It just looks nicer. I know aesthetics is good. It's actually very good for your ego as a designer eventually. But it doesn't mean that the system is better. And if you don't pay attention to the subtleties of the issues being addressed on this table right now, you will never understand it. And you'll keep on designing stuff that you feel that is good, that you feel that is nice, that you feel that is usable, and at the end of the day, you are not running a good service. And in this case, you are wasting taxpayers' money, right? So I'm afraid that this kind of talk, it's not flashy, it's not about the wow thing, it's about making things actually working. And it takes time, and you actually need to understand the concerns of the stakeholders. Not just wait for the insightful insightful wow and the next after party. It's actually getting things done, and it's important. These are very important topics, I would say. On one hand, so this is a comment on the discussion right now because I was seeing some frowning and yawning and but that's the thing. If you don't take this in, then you will never be able to actually design and develop good services. That's a fact, right? There's no kind of inside genius thing that will make you design it without understanding the people involved. On one hand, on the other hand, there was a question before about the system, and I think that we kind of missed this throughout now, right? So we've been talking about the model, that is a system, that is a spreadsheet, and some of you might be confused. Basically, what I will point to these two colleagues right now, but what they came up with, and others in the team, but what they came up with was with a calculator, with a model. It's a formula. It takes in some data that you need to monitor, and it produces indicators. This model, this calculator, this formula, call it whatever you want, for the time being is implemented as an Excel spreadsheet. You fill in some cells, and this Excel spreadsheet will do cut, and produce some indicators, right? So that's what the system is right now. And this is the format that needs to be improved over time, monitored, assessed, matured, whatever. For it to become a system, then somebody, and this is business opportunity as well, somebody needs to take this up and actually create this library or create a service that people can connect to, an API, call it whatever, that can connect to generate these kind of indicators. Indicators that will be accepted as valid by the stakeholders, right? So this is also important to understand, right? Indicators that could be accepted as valid by the stakeholders. Because although they were saying that, okay, you can take any kind of measure thing and we could consider it, by the end of the day, they want to take measures that they trust in. They will not take any measure. You can come to them telling them, okay, my system is usable because I used method blah, 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 and it produced this kind of result. It might be that they will take it might be that they will not take it. So in the end of the day, although the issue on top of the table is kind of open, they will expect to see something that they can trust, and something that they can trust will always revert to a model or a set of models or a set of metrics, call them what you want, that they understand and that they can audit, right? If they cannot audit the process, then getting just the number is not enough, okay? So that's two things to kind of, to trigger kind of deeper levels of reasoning, reflection, and critique upon the way all of us, do things nowadays, right? It looks kind of boring, because it's kind of this discussion that needs to be digged in and understood, but it's actually quite relevant. And without this, we will keep on designing more beautiful stuff, but not necessarily better stuff. And then in the end, things will not work, and we will get frustrated, and we will be calling the help desk to help me find the service that I need in the state portal, just because the thing looks nicer, but not necessarily renders a better service yet. And it can, if it's measurable.
Yeah, so we can summarize that the work is boring, and that from Kristen Karmo's, the code functionality is an essential part of code usability. He has posted that with a question mark to get my attention, but we can actually read it out as a statement. Yes, a lot of these, actually, these 26 metrics points there were more related to functionality. If there is some kind of process started, and if the process resulted in some result, and so on.
Sorry, this go back by my old discussion. Those of you attending the SKI meetups, you know that I go over this and over again and again and again and again and again. It's the UX, UI stuff. This everybody's doing whatever. It's just interaction design. It's not graphical design. Interaction design is about actually workflow. It's about functionality. It's about how we interact with the system. It's about communication. It's not about the visuals. The visuals are important. They add there, but it's not only about that. It's mainly about what we want people to be able to do with what we are providing, right? This is what interaction design is all about, and that's where we're failing most of the time.
Yeah, and what we're doing here is actually sales. We're actually paving the ground for everybody to sell more usability.
Well, but prettiness is also important. I mean, otherwise, if it's really ugly, nobody's going to even watch, is it good, usable or not? Right? So if you go for dating, right? So it's the same thing. I mean, like...
they are not looking at faces, they are looking at numbers.
Yeah,
the females.
The dating...
Yeah, well, but they looked a bit faces as well. I mean, like, to get... to be interested I know. Requires some kind of... at least something pleasure to see. That's it. Yeah.
Actually, working myself with nice thing designers a lot, I've seen that actually we need to find very strong balance and also set up some guards to prohibit making nice things, because the nice thing designers are getting so much into the process of making things nicer. They are very quickly forgetting what they actually started doing. And this is actually one of my suggestions for 2014. When you have a web designer in your house, just make sure you don't buy him or her the iMac with 27-inch screen. Designers should have these 11-inch MacBook Airs or maybe 13-inch MacBook Airs. Because everybody who is doing the nice design on very nice screens, they are producing something which is actually not usable. They are so much into making these large spaces, and you know the space between the elements is giving a rhythm and whatever. And just the point is, buy the designers small monitors. Or just at least tell them, if they don't start working for small spaces, they will buy them.
Peter, you are darker than I am. Much darker.
But I do want to compete with a question of passion. There was a question from audience about David that did he just got angry, or is this passion? And there is multiple answers that definitely passion. But we actually
it's passion, yes. It's passion.
Yeah. So if anybody left open on that question then. But let's move on and Andres on the question of the implementation of the model. So he's actually the guy who's running the register, which was the first target of this study. So what about implementing? Did you get it implemented?
Yes, some sort of type or metrics. Indeed, I get results, and yes, I like slides.
Yeah.
So I'm introduced myself. I'm Andres Rubas from Ministry of Economic Affairs, and yes, indeed, I'm involved with Register of Economic Affairs. That is the database where which function is to enable keep records, a company's activity licenses and so on. And I'm here to express my experiences using that model. And so I found it that the first thing what I have to do is to set up my goals. And I discovered that I don't need all of the 24 indicators. If I choose my main critical goals about that system, I realized that I can choose only some of them indicators, and my goals, what I set up was 3 simple things. First one is the users must submit 100% application through online. That is related with the productivity aspect. When all entrepreneurs do their application electronically and directly into the database, it saves us money. No one have to retype this paper application anymore. The next one is the users find quickly and easily relevant forms. The goal is related how easily users could reach to the necessary or desirable application, and obviously if they reach there as quickly, as easily as possible, then it's better. That figure shows how good is the system learnability and simplicity, and it shows my workload, how much me and my colleagues have work to do to consultate to entrepreneurs. When they find those forms relevantly easy themselves, then I have less workload. And the third one is the satisfaction level, how satisfied they are filling the forms. The main thing what affecting the satisfaction is the way that avoiding the mistakes in forms or filling processes, if that is mistake error free. So this was my goals, what I wanted to measure, how far I am, and what kind of data I needed to calculate how far I am from my goal. And in the first indicators, I need to know what is the number of paper application what we get and what is the number of all applications. The next one is the average number of page views in the session, how many clicks and pages they opening before they reach in the right form. And the last one is how many applications with mistakes are in system, and how many all the license application in the system. And this model helped me a lot to identify those countable elements. And And when we planned register development, we already took into the consideration what kind of things we want to know. For example, we have the question, was that application sent by paper or by electronically? That means we have so-called radio button in system where official from the competent authority put that radio button. This was paper application. And this first indicator, it was counted through the intra-system. I made intra-system inquiry or filtering, sir, and I get that we have 800 paper application and 100,000 overall number. It took very little time to reach that number. The next one, the next indicator, I needed to use Google Analytics. It took me less than half an hour to set up or adjust the Google Analytics to get the result. The result is 9.5. I think it's too much, but where is the optimum? Is it 3 or 4? It needs further analysis. And the last one was my failure. Because what I discovered that the parts of I can count part of that indicators. I can count how many applications but already submit in the system is sent back to the companies and there is some kind of error or some kind of mistake or missing data in that field. But I was unable to count how many validating problems users have before they submit the application. To count that, I have to turn I turned my development side and asked them to create that opportunity, but it takes a little bit of time. So that last number is do not shows the solid picture. It's too good. It's too good. And for a conclusion, I may say that this model is helping measuring the goals progress. Yes, indeed, it helps. And it helps to see what's behind the numbers. What's the numbers good for? It's quite easy to start measuring if you know your goal and you have planned measuring system already in the beginning of the process. Thank you.
Yes, I wanted to comment on one thing that there is actually very interesting to see that the moment you actually start looking at these three numbers and you watched them and thought that, this thing needs to be fixed, and also, for example, for the number of sessions, we actually do need to track separately converting sessions where a person, for example, made some query or actually two types of conversions. One was a search visit, one is the application filling visit, and the third is just whatever random visit of these visits. Then we can actually see three different numbers. The number of mistakes, actually the question of how to track in-page form entry mistakes and show them in backend. Aha, this is again another thing. So it's very interesting to see that whenever you're actually going to look into the data, you will pretty soon actually find that we are again speaking about, even when we take these 3 key KPIs, we are again talking about like at least 26 numbers to actually make any sense of that. So you see, it's helping people understand what's behind the data. I think this is a very good part of the model in this way. There is also a question from Sim Lukas. Shouldn't you define the problems before creating the end goals, or did I miss something? Was there a problem defined at the beginning?
What was the problem?
Yeah, what was the problem you are wanting to solve with seeing the numbers? Is the usability bad? Is it?
No. Maybe not usability is bad, but as I said, the first things I have to save the costs in the first number, and the other, I think the reason is the laziness. I'm want that my colleague and my workload is lower, and if I make effort to do our system better, I saving my time that way that I don't have to consultate or helping or guiding the entrepreneurs that much that I do today. That was the reasoning maybe behind what I should choose those main goals and those metrics.
Okay, but let's move straight on because we are running short on time. And Janno, and the question of actually implementing, because it has been also going somewhere through the discussion on the back channel about won't public tenders solve the question of actually getting everything produced right? So Janno, from the ordering side, how do you feel?
I feel so. And I wanted to talk about the applicability of that usability metrics framework. At first, short insight to the world of public sector. At first, we have to make public procurement, and after that we can start developing. But in the framework of public procurement, it's very complicated to use agile software development. It's just too complicated. Much better is good old waterfall. And yeah, here comes the problem. We will get the overview of the usability level when software is already in use. But project or procurement is over and developer is already gone. And solution could be make 2 procurements, 2 projects. At first we will make something and then we will make it well. And improvement of usability can be part of redesign process. And I wanted to add one more motivator or solution to the list of ministry people slide. haven't you thought about formalizing that Trinidad document as some kind of legal act? Because officials like laws and legal acts, and otherwise it's one more manual. We have tons of manuals. And that's all by me.
So we need, in addition to declaring free Wi-Fi as a human right, also the usability of government systems a human right. That might be actually a rather good solution in a way. I'd like to add that a couple of weeks ago there was Agile Saturday, and Targo Tõnisberg was speaking about procurement processes and agile processes. And the solution they had found to be kind of usable from the side of Nortal was that when you kind of find out that possibly the budget for the system is like 1 million, and they everybody was putting their tenders in at 900,000, 900, and so on. And they said that, went in and said that let's do it in a way that we do half of a job for half of the money. And then we have still the 50% of the budget left for follow-up work. So this is actually something which Jano is also talking, and I think yesterday when we were talking with speakers, it turned out this is also something which is kind of envisioned on the other parts of the Europe. So this is something which really, if it can be staged in two ways, then it's possible to fill the main functionality first and then go on and fixing and making it better with the second part of the money pot and go on. Any comments on that part, procurement? Anybody wants to start offering services yet?
It looks like I want to monopolize the microphone, not so. It's not directly related with the procurement, but actually with the effects of policy making. So if procurement model changes, then it actually drives a change in industry. The same thing goes with the usability model, right? If a usability model is adopted, enforced or suggested or highly recommended, this also provides a ripple effect in the industry, because then people need to be able to use this quality attribute, to work for this quality attribute, and in the end things will be taken up and naturally be done better. It happens in all branches of industry, right? It starts to be a bugger, it starts to be a challenge, then it's actually taken up, and then naturally it becomes part of business, and things are just better because it becomes part of the routine. So I think that this, although there are lots of challenges to be addressed, I think it's very good that we take the challenge from the front and we try to address it, because it will be very beneficial for all of us in the end. So this a comment regarding this procurement thing as a policy making decision or level thing. And the other is regarding this question of this problem about where to. We will get full overview of usability level when software is already in use, but project procurement is over and developer is already gone, and maybe move the usability issues a little bit further. I mean, a bit before upstream into the process. In fact, I would suggest that those of us concerned with usability would consider different ways of assessing usability very early in the process. One way of doing it is being done by many already, and this is by the sketching and the wireframing and involving users in very early stages for quick feedback. But there are other mechanisms that should be also adopted, like model-based usability evaluation. This is also very relevant. It provides a very specific set of quality indicators, and it's very good. It has a very significant provides a very significant insight on the future usability of a service. And of course, a number of also inspection methods can be used to assess potential usability pitfalls very early in the process. And they are as far as I know, they are not being used that much. The main challenge, let me just say one thing about this one thing, that the inspection method. The main challenge with inspection methods is that these are supposed to be applied by experienced professionals, knowledgeable people, right? These are diagnosis tools or approaches. It's like, it's just imagine doctor, right? A doctor is highly trained. It has long process of training and experience before he is allowed to start producing diagnosis, because he uses an inspection method, right? If you take this apparently easy to use heuristics, Jacob Nielsen's or others, and other inspection methods, and you just apply them by yourself, there's a high probability that although you have a very good level of intention, you will be doing a very, very bad job, just because you don't have enough experience, training, and insight on the true meaning and the values that are behind these metrics. So it's not just about applying them. It's a pitfall. It looks like easy to apply, but actually needs some knowledge, right? So these are two ways of addressing the usability issue very early, but they need to be done by experienced and highly trained professionals. I would say that most of us sitting in this room probably can't do it today.
Yeah, there is actually also the question that there is on one side is highly trained tender specialists running the procurement process, and on the other side is the department in the software developer who is interested in getting the money with the minimal amount of the work. And this is actually what has resulted in a lot of disasters we are seeing around us, that somehow the thing that has been done has qualified to the tender document, because taking into account all of the software questions, like actually summarizing a longer discussion with Janno earlier, is that when you are going to close a point with a developer, one part is saying, no, this is not usable, this is not nice, but it's not functional. Another point is, no, it's exactly as said in the tender and in agreement, and we have done our job and we are walking away. So and this is actually the reality which has made a lot of things go into the side. But that's there
was also one thing, usability testing.
Mm-hmm.
If you do wireframes, it's really easy to test, right? Just observe how people would use it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but let's once again from all of the technical side turn back to the user side, and Kai, who is actually looking at the thing from one side, from the, let's say, business processes or municipal processes, and from the other side, the people who are using that. And what do you feel about a model like that?
Yes, as I am from local governments, and I have to say clients first. For me and for my colleagues dealing every day with public services, we need to know what are our clients thinking and feeling. Are they satisfied with the service channel or not? And for that, we use feedback. We have different questions to get feedback and to analyze the feedback and to improve the services. At first, we have such a question where they may ask or make some proposals. And twice in a year, we made analysis and improved the services. Today, we have another question. Did you find what you was looking for? And that also helped us to improve if there is something wrong with the service. And once in a year, we have big satisfaction service. Of course, that satisfaction service don't give exactly that what do we need to improve the service or the service channel. But if those are e-services, so the systems must be very easy to use. Mostly the systems application form opens only for entitled person. And for example, we have such a service, if your child is going to the first class, if you enter with your ID card to that system, you will get the pre-fill form, and the one number you have to add is your bank account number, where we are going to transfer the money. And of course, that metric system is very good, but maybe there are some systems are very difficult. It is just the registration system and also the building register. But there are some kind of there are some kind of licenses and benefits that are very easy to get. And for those, I think also is Net Promoter Score very good, and this is initiated also by the economic ministry. And we have used it for internal clients, that promoter index. We wanted to know from those civil servants who are not using that every day, they are not filling the service card, what do they think? And now we ask it from the clients, and it is possible to make different questions, and that helps also to measure the satisfaction and to correct what is not in order. But about those metrics, I think we are also thinking to use them.
Okay, and I would like to add to that I think sometimes earlier during day there was a question on our back channel. By the way, somebody is mentioning that the questions part is moving from microphone to back channel. I do hope this is good for the discussion also. And there was a question exactly that what to do if I don't know exactly the questions I ask, the problems I have, and problems my users have, which pretty often may be the case. And it seems me that also I'm not very great fan of the NPS, but it does solve a lot of problems, especially getting started and finding your first issues from which you are going to rise the first problems. And for these problems, you need to have some more detailed metrics to find the answers, because if your clients are telling that this form is difficult to fill, you need to find out what is the problem with the form, and so on. And also, again, from yesterday's discussion with the other speakers, it turned out that something like NPS is the very entrance model for actually getting into the users' minds.
Yeah, of course, we even might not know what kind of problems our clients have at the promoter index. We ask, do you recommend the service to your colleague or to your friend? And if they recommend it, they can evaluate the service. And if they put number 1 up to 5, that the service is really bad, and there is a possibility to make a comment, what is the problem. If they don't make a comment, then we don't know what is the problem. Then we have to find ourselves if there is a lot of such numbers. If they give a better number, 7 up to 10, then the service is quite good. And I think that is a good possibility to know it. Lot of private companies use the promoter index.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think with this side from the great matrix to one number and one question, which makes the life easy, we are going to wrap up this panel. We are going to have a short networking break now for 20 minutes. We must be back here at 1600. And as I've been trying to push the questions from here out, I will leave Raimo's question for you to discuss during the break. What to do if people ordering services don't know themselves what they need? Oh, okay.
They cannot really know. I mean, they cannot know what they need. If they're ordering new service or software, the first step is analyzing. Yeah, they know that what they want to fix or what they want to improve, but they have no idea what the solution should be. And they shouldn't have, because that's why we're analyzing, that's why we're doing interviews with the customers, and that's why we're creating prototypes. And not all the time new system is the solution. I mean, that can be just something, I don't know, let's remove the service at all or something like that. So they shouldn't know. But that means that they cannot really say exactly what kind of user interface they want to have. It's impossible to say, so we do need to accept that. I mean, we cannot really tell everything in the tenders what we want to build. It's impossible to tell.
There is actually two ways to interpret the question, what to do if the people ordering services don't know themselves what they need. Maybe Raimo's question wasn't about the tender part, but about the people using the services or ordering the whatever part of the governmental or municipal service. So we can leave that part then up to the networking discussion part. So, back in 21 minutes, go have your coffee, and thank you for panel, and also